Welcome to the Conservative Continuum. I am your host, Mick Meow. So, let's talk about what's coming up. April 3rd, the OK GOP Action Team will be hosting an Oklahoma State Republican Party Chairman Forum. The venue is going to be at Higher Plain Baptist Church, and it's planned for 6 p.m. Both A.J. Ferrati and Sean Roberts have agreed to attend. We're also going to be having, on April 17th, the OK GOP Action Team sponsoring a Oklahoma State Party Vice Chairman Forum, which is going to be at the Sheridan Church in Tulsa. That's going to be on the 17th at 6 p.m. So you don't want to miss either one of those events. Now, what I want to do is ask you please to subscribe to me on patreon.com/MickMeow. You can also find the Conservative Continuum on Rumble and Facebook. Today, we have a Council Cat show with Rarchar Tortorello. He is running for Ward 5, Norman City Council. He is the incumbent. That race is going to be on April the 4th. Early voting is going to be on March 30th and 31st. So I want you all to mark that on your calendar. Make sure that you go out, get the vote out. Norman City Council, Ward 5, Rarchar Tortorello is running. He's the incumbent. All right, guys. So after the break, I want you all to join me in welcoming Rarchar. Now, grab your kitty treats and your milk, and let's get ready to engage. Welcome to the Conservative Continuum. I am your host, Mick Meow. Today we are here. We have a special interview going on with Rarchar Tortorello. He is running for Ward 5, Norman City Council. So that vote is going to happen on April the 4th. Early voting is going to start on March the 30th, so you guys know what to do. You got to get out there and you got to vote. You got to do what you need to do. So, Rarchar,
Mick,
good to see you.
You know what? Last time I saw you, we were at the Steve Banning events. Remember that?
Right on.
And we were here earlier that day filming a promo for his show and his events. And, you know, I want to let you know you do wonderful work. I always love watching what you got going on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate that you came out and that you're here with me. Good to see you again. It's always good to chit chat.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
I love it. I love it. So you're running. You're getting it out there. The race is going to be, the vote's going to be on April the 4th. So I want you to tell our viewers, I want you to tell us who you are and why are you running for this re-election?
Hey, I am the incumbent running for re-election of Ward 5 City Council of Norman. I'm a 20-year Air Force veteran. I have one of the highest medals for heroism, second only to the Medal of Honor when it comes to the criteria of voluntary risk of life. It was during the Khobar Towers bombing, if you recall, the barrack attack, the terrorist attack. Right after that, I leapt into action, and I was the first one to lead a rescue team into that building that was still burning and on fire. We pulled people out. We established a triage downstairs outside in the parking lot until help could arrive. And for that, we were given, or I was presented and awarded the Airman's Medal. Again, it's a voluntary risk of life. That's the main criteria. Now, I am running for re-election. The runoff is April 4th, and I've been a lifelong conservative, a lifelong Republican. and I fought for this country. I've injured myself for this country, and what I've done in my first term, we restored the funding back to Norman PD. If you recall the June 2020 police defunding,
I do.
that whole nightmare where City Council at the time, the knee-jerk reaction was to go ahead and take a national incident that had nothing to do with the city of Norman, but initially they wanted to defund our police and divert that money elsewhere to the tune of $4.2 million. But 12 hours later, and hundreds, maybe thousands of protesters that were bussed in just for this event, they settled on the $865,000. So when I ran on two platforms. One is to refund the money back to Norman PD and on private property rights. And so last year, June, at the last budget meeting, we voted, with the exception of one person who was part of the police defunding, to restore all $865,000 back to the police budget.
Wonderful.
That was awesome. And private property rights, I'm the guy that's out in front leading the fight for those families that are affected by the Oklahoma Turnpike coming through Ward 5. That's me. We've built coalitions here in Norman and to the state capitol. And all we wanted was transparency and accountability.
Yeah, right on.
That's all they were asking for, to be part of the process. It's like, OTA decided to bake this cake with secret ingredients and then come out and say, hey, you pick the topping. What frosting would you like? And, Ward 5, City of Norman, most Oklahomans, that's not how we do things. We want things to be in the daylight. So, a lot of achievements, a lot of accomplishments. The Attorney General, the new one, he listened to us and he saw the evidence.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But, public safety is important to Ward 5. We have a fire station that was voted on in 2014, but I appropriated $9.5 million in ARPA funds to finish and complete the Emergency Operations Center, because that's the only time that once that capital project is completed, we can go ahead and take the money, whatever's left over, to complete Fire Station 5 in Ward 5 on Highway 9. Gotcha. We have broken bridges that we're looking for money to fix. And so there's a lot of construction, public safety wise, in Ward 5. And I ran on that too as well, is to make sure that public safety, including fire and police presence in Ward 5, is paramount, because we are out there. It's 85 square miles of country, and we only have 2 patrols. And there's a lot to cover with only 2 vehicles, 2 patrols, 85 square miles. And so we are slowly getting back to our manning with the money returned back to Norman Police Department. And I'm proud to say that I got into politics because I'm a patriot, and the police defunding brought about the largest grassroots movement to stop the police defunding, the abolish the police movement. We also stopped the second defunding when they tried to do it again a second time. And, we stopped that. We had a show of force, about 500 people all together, 250 inside and 250 outside. It stayed until like 3 o'clock in the morning. Wow. They took the money from the general fund and not the police fund this time, because of what we've done. That groundwork of grassroots activism prevented the second defunding. And again, when we voted last year, all but one, to restore funding back to the police, I accomplished everything I set out to do when I ran the first time.
Great. That's wonderful. By the way, I want to say thank you for your service. I was a nurse for 28 years. So, all of those people who give their lives and who serve their country, hoorah.
Right.
Right on.
Right on.
Right on.
Yeah, good work for you too.
Power. Yeah. So discuss with us, you were talking to us about your experience and the qualifications that you are bringing.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about those things that you've had. Go a little bit more in depth on those experiences that you've had actually on the city council, working and dealing in the city of Norman.
You know what? So when I came into council, it was a highly, and still is, liberal majority council. And so that first year of learning and dealing with the other council members here, of course, we want to push public safety first. That's why we ran. But sometimes, we have to look at what is best for the city of Norman. There are a lot of issues that face the city of Norman, and we have to put aside partisanship because
Sure.
they say it's nonpartisan for a reason. And the argument is that, Rarchar, the other side, are hyper partisan as well. That's very true.
Sure.
And so my conversations, the mentorship is that it's okay for the liberals of council to look at police funding and public safety funding, as it's okay for the conservative members to look at social issues too as well, because they do impact the city of Norman. Everything that we look at impacts not just, it's about people, okay?
Sure.
It's not about ideology. And
Right.
so I try to make sure that we keep that off the council, because the majority of folks, I believe, want us to be in the center while we're on council to do the people's work. So Ward 5 is mostly conservative. And like I said, I've been a lifelong Republican. I never changed my affiliation. Joined the military, Republican, been a conservative, and will never change my affiliation for any political expediency to get votes. But we do have liberals and we do have Democrats, independents, and we have to represent all of them
That's
the
right.
best we can.
Sure. Right on. Yeah,
Right?
especially being city council, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what we want. And I mean, I'm not in Norman, but even in the city council where I'm at, I want them to be fair. I want them to be equal, not equitable. I want them to be equal.
Absolutely.
And I want them to represent, because where I live, you got to build those relationships.
Absolutely.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. That's the only way to go forward, is to build those relationships here. We may not agree 100% on everything here, but we do agree that being human when we look at things and putting aside ideology is the best policy forward. I think, we had a vote a couple months back. We asked for a pay raise, city council pay raise, and it was voted down. And I believe that the majority of the folks still don't trust council, because we have those fights. We don't agree on a lot of things here. There's gridlock. So why would the voters choose to give us a pay raise when we can't even get along sometimes to get the work done for the city?
Right.
And so hopefully when it comes back up for a vote again, soon, I hope, we only make $1,200 a year.
Gotcha.
But I'm doing the work of a state senator. Okay. And I think their pay is like $50,000 or $47,000 a year, maybe a little bit more than that. And so commensurate with the number of hours that we put in, and the things that we do, and how we affect our wards and the city, we do need a pay raise. But in order to prove and show that that we're deserving of that, we have to put aside the ideology, both sides, everybody, and work on behalf of what's more important for the city.
Yeah,
Okay?
absolutely. You remember the cat? He always lets us know when it's time to get his treats. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more with Rarchar. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Conservative Continuum. We are here with Rarchar Tortorello, and he is running for Ward 5, Norman City Council. So remember, the vote is April the 4th. Do you have that on your calendar? Did you mark that down? Put that down right now. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about what you've been on the city council, you're rocking along. What is next? What's your vision? What's your plan? Should you be able to get into the city council, keep your, be the incumbent, stay? Tell us about that vision.
The vision, going forward is we've got a lot of work to do in Ward 5. We
Yeah.
have broken bridges that need attention. We just don't have the resources, the money to fix it. So we have a lot of issues like the fire station that we talked about previously in the last segment that needs to be built. It was voted on by the people, and most people don't know that we have to wait until the Emergency Operations Center is completed, and that capital project is completed before we start on Station 5. We have those issues. Homelessness is a big issue in Norman, big topic because they're out in the streets here, and it mostly impacts those downtown in Wards 4, in the city proper. We have no services out in Ward 5 for them to come out to loiter around, but going forward, what I'd like to see is that we need to get the bridges fixed.
Yeah.
There's a water rate increase severely in core Norman and the west side. Old lines, meters that need to be updated and modernized. That this rate has to pass. This vote has to pass. So the next session is going to be a busy session, and we just need to work together and work on behalf of the people. I think it's important that they see us working together because we have some serious issues coming up in my second term. And so that is the strategy going forward. Is that we talked about what and how we can best serve our citizens.
Yeah.
And we do that by taking everything we do seriously from a prism of nonpartisanship that best we can, and keep out all the national nonsense at this local level here, because people need to have trust in local government. And if you want to see how local government works, the best place to see it is to watch city council. That is the best place, and so that's what I plan to do, is remind the voters what I've done for Ward 5 and what I've done for the city of Norman, and I'm consistent in everything I've said and done.
Excellent. I like it. I like the vision. I like a man with a plan. That's how we roll. So what about things that need to be improved or changed? What do you believe needs to be? Every place needs improvement, right? Or every place needs something to be changed about it, good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. What do you think that is?
I think if you were to ask that question last year, my answer would be different. I think what needs to be improved on city council, for example, is the civility and decorum. I did run that we need to come back to being civil and not argue with each other and personal attacks. We've seen a lot of the personal attacks here on both sides. And that really, really degrades the opinion that people have on city council. But when I ran and I won overwhelming in a 4-man race, my statement, my position is that we have to, or I have to, protect the integrity of the office of the mayor, city council, and staff. People have to trust that all 3 entities are doing what's in the best interest of our citizens, regardless of who sits there. You may not like the mayor, you may not like other city council members, you may not like anybody on city staff, but you have to know that they are always working on behalf of the citizens, that the council and mayor are always working on behalf of the city of Norman, and that's how we restore trust. All right, we restore trust by not attacking any of our major departments, like the fire department, for example, is coming under fire. Norman PD came under fire during the 2020 police defunding.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of settled itself out, but the effects of the police defunding is that we have a hard time recruiting police officers to come to the city of Norman.
There you go.
So how do you do that? So let's go back to the homeless issue. How do we deal with the homeless? Some people say that, but when they do their things in public, defecate, urinate, do you call the cops? They'll take the call, they'll log it in the book here, but reality, they're not going to send patrol out to go look at it and address the issue. Okay, there was a situation because there's no manpower. We are stretched so thin that last year I had a friend call. His daughter was in a car accident in Norman, and he said, "Listen, we've been waiting for like 13, 14 minutes for the police and ambulance to arrive, and can you see what's going on?" So I called the operator, 911, and said, "Hey, can you tell me the status of this call, and basically she said, Your Honor, we have no one to send. They're all out on patrol taking other calls here. That is the direct result of the police defunding. Whether or not we call it, I mean, just call it the way it is, they did defund the police, okay? And the results that we have, and we're stretched thin on manpower. It's hard to recruit for the police department. You know, some still think that Norman has a hostile work environment to police officers, okay? And we need to change that.
Right.
We need to hire more officers. We need to
Right.
bring in more people to the city of Norman that will contribute to the sales tax base to funnel more money into the PSSA2, is the public safety sales tax.
Okay.
That will fund more positions on the police department. And that is so vital that our city grows. We have the SEC coming in a couple of years. Our infrastructure is growing, but we need to make sure and make sure that everyone knows that who comes to the city to relocate here, that we do have public safety is number one.
Right.
You want to go to a city that has cops on the beats that will be responsive to the taxpayers.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is like the number one thing. I mean, look at some of the bigger, cities where Chicago, New York, I mean, some of those cities, people are fleeing. So if you don't have security, if you don't know that you can walk outside and walk down the street
Absolutely.
and not be mugged or raped or, God forbid, whatever, killed in broad daylight, who has to be there? The police, the security. They've got to be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we were in Atlanta some time ago, and they have private security,
Yeah.
not enough police, and so private security provides that extra layer to make sure and ensure that vagrants don't come into the restaurants and the stores downtown Atlanta.
Yeah.
There's homeless camped outside nice restaurants. It is an awful scene in an awful environment where you don't have enough cops in Atlanta, Georgia, that the business owners have to hire private security.
Yeah, right on. Yeah.
So we mentioned homelessness earlier. We have our sister organization, or a friend of ours down in Austin. I don't know if you know the Save Austin Now folks.
I have not, but I think we have been talking at one point in time where we've known each other. So we were talking, and I believe you had mentioned that.
Yeah, so we invited them to Norman in October of 2021 to give us a feedback on their efforts to change city council, to put more conservative members on their council to address the police issue, but it kind of pivoted to the homeless issue. So they came and discussed how bad the homeless population, the issues, defecating, drug use, needles, everything that has impacted the city of Austin that they're facing back in 2021. And the one thing that they left with us is that if we don't learn from what they're going through back in 2021, that could very well end up being Norman, in the next couple of years. Now, we're not criminalizing homelessness. What we're looking at is a huge influx of transients coming into Norman. So we have a core group of Normanites that are addicted, and they're the ones that we need to take care of, and we should take care of. But we have a growing influx of transients who just run out of Moore, Oklahoma City, Noble, Newcastle, because they enforce their loitering and public camping. Okay, they have the manpower to do that. We don't have the manpower to do that, and so I think they come to the path of least resistance, which is Norman.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let me just ask this. I just want to ask a follow-up. Wait. We're going to ask the follow-up because the kitty just came in.
I just heard her.
I did too. It's always the need for treats.
I know.
All right. We're coming. Hold on. Don't go away.
Bye.
I have been serving as a president of a women's club, which is really just a men and women's group where we come together, just common sense organization to get educated and equip one another. And so I really feel like this grassroots from the ground up is so important. However, what can you do to make it cool to be a Republican again? Like, how can you come across and share that with the nation so that it is cool? Because honestly, when my husband was running, family sells, children, kids, education, prosperity, rising up, hardworking parents, teaching their kids to work hard. Those things sell. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, most people want those things. Health, we want good health care, all those things. So how can you inspire from the top down and lead? Because we live in whether we like it or not, we live in an influencing world. Social media is everything. And so I want to know what you're going to do to make it cool, not necessarily to be a Republican, but to talk about these things, because we probably all agree about several of these things. Only because we put an R by our name and we say we're a Republican, then we're kind of cast to the side. But these are values that most people actually care about.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I have one simple solution to this. Democrats have invested a lot of money in social media influencers, believe it or not. I didn't even know this was a thing, but there are these companies out there and they hire these young people and they can promote just about anything. I mean, I actually have a lawsuit going about YouTube influencers right now. I was shocked to learn that all these 20-something and even teenage kids are making millions of dollars promoting products. Well, guess what? They can promote ideas as well. And there's a couple of conservative companies that actually have a stable of conservative influencers. I'm 54 years old. I'm not going to claim that I'm like the hippest person in the world here, but you have to know what you don't know, right? And so you can hire very cheaply compared to the amount of money we blow. I think we had a consulting contract at the RNC in 2022 where we paid a famous person who you see on television on Fox News, $800,000 for consulting services, communications consulting services. What do you guys think of the RNC's communications? I don't think we got our $800,000 worth. Let's put it that way. Now, let's say if we took that, we got ripped off, and that's a whole other story. But anyway, let's say you took that $800,000 and you spent it on 100 influencers and said, "Hey, kids, go out to these communities where you live and make videos. Make videos about what you're doing. Make videos. We're trying to promote early voting in your state. Make a video of you sitting around the table in your sweats or whatever with your friends and filling out your ballots and then turning them in, taking them to the city hall or wherever the voting place is." That would move so many more people than some boring lecture by somebody like me. So I think that that's something that we should do. That's smart. It's also cheap. I'm not saying get into TikTok, although, some people would suggest doing that as well. But, I mean, young people do watch that stuff. But if you even just did Instagram or Facebook Live like this, if we use modern technology, imagine as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, when was the last time in my state party, the state party chair actually sat and answered questions from members of the state party? That would be never. But it's actually free to do that. You could do it from your living room. You could do it once a month. You could take it 15 questions. You could have pre-screened questions, answer a couple of tough questions, answer 13 softball questions, whatever it is. It's so much more accessible today to meet and do things this way than it was 5 or 10 years ago. I don't think we're making best use of that modern technology, and we should be doing more of that. And so I'd love to see us doing that.
Welcome back to the Conservative Continuum. We are here. We are talking to Rarchar, who is running for Norman City Council, Ward 5. And when's the vote? April the 4th. Did you write that down? All right, get to it. Put it on your calendar. Make sure. April the 4th, March 30th, and the 31st, early voting, right? Right.
Yep.
There we go. All right. So when we last left off, you were talking about the homeless population that was coming to that path of least resistance.
Right.
And one of the things that you had mentioned is the enforcement of their loitering policies. So let me ask you this. So is it that Norman doesn't have those policies, they need those policies, or they have those policies and maybe they just need a little bit more manpower to enforce them?
It's the latter. We have the
Okay.
policies in place here. We just don't have the manpower and resources to enforce it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to ask because that's what I wondered. That's what I thought.
Right.
So let me move off into a different topic: diversity, equity, inclusion. So
The three words, three-letter words that nobody likes to hear.
right, going through the city councils. So what are your thoughts on that? How is that impacting Norman?
You know what?
and the city council?
I think we saw it prematurely in 2020 with the Abolish the Police movement. I think that was a precursor to what we have DEI here today, but it's permeated every part of Norman and every part of the state and every part of the federal government. Basically, it takes and it tries the attempt to make everyone equal, and they whitewash the history and they purport to say that this is the true history here when it's not. I think the DEI folks in that movement sole purpose, and anyone who supports this movement is complicit in the destruction of a republic. Anytime you have a movement that takes something from one person and give it to another person, or makes everyone equal at the expense of somebody else here, that is not the way our republic works.
Yeah.
That's the destruction. I think majority of Americans, the true Republicans and conservatives who are watching the show, would agree that we have a front row seat to the destruction of our way of life, our government system, with DEI slowly creeping in. Look, I grew up, I was born and raised in Germany, and I saw firsthand the socialist movement. But what it has become over the years to what it is now, it is a destructive force with one purpose in mind, which is to destroy the American way.
Yeah, I agree. When you've got one group and you elevate one group, and then you purposely degrade one group, or you put one group lower,
Right.
you say it's equal, but it's not equality, it's equity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Two different things. So let me just ask you a little bit about, because I know that one of the big platforms, one of your big pillars of the platform is the pike, the access. So there was a couple things that had gone on. There was the open meeting violation that
Open Meetings Act.
Open Meetings Act, right? And then there was also the Attorney General now,
Right.
who is looking into some wrongdoings that's going on with the OTA.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about what's happening with access, what's going on there, how is that impacting you? I mean, it sounds like there's some roadblocks that are being thrown up, maybe to stop that from coming through.
One good thing about the grassroots movements and grassroots activists, they do a lot of work, and they find a lot of information for us to look at and actually have conversations with. So let's start with the Open Meetings Act violation. So the great Stan Ward, who's been my mentor for years, he is my attorney in that case, and we actually won it. Judge Olson ruled in our favor that OTA, by virtue of the language used and their agendas, would make it hard for just the average person to understand what the conversation, what the meetings would take place were all about. And so when Judge Olson ruled in our favor, that proved that they were hiding things from the public. And when you have a state agency such as the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority with the power of eminent domain, it becomes abusive when they try to hide things and basically think that we are not smart enough to know what they're doing. Yeah. All they had to do is have a conversation with us. But we're not Hicks here in Ward 5.
Right.
I'm proud to say I'm a Hick, but we're not the Hicks that is portrayed on TV. You don't mess with Ward 5. So we won that, and one of the things that came out of that was the judge said that any appropriations were illegal and have to be redone. And so we go to what happened on City Council in 2021. Where Stan Ward also represented the Fraternal Order Police against the City Council for violation of the Open Meetings Act for not properly agendizing the budget takeaway in 2020. And so he won it at district, and the appellate court upheld it, and City Council had a special session on 14 April 2021 where they had to formally go back and have that budget meeting all over again to formally vote to defund the police, line item by line item, 3 times to vote to take away, which added in total to $865,000. So OTA did the same thing too, but instead of having a public meeting, they held it in executive session, so we don't know what they discussed. Okay,
Oh.
so the resulting of that, they still have appropriations they need to refund back to the contractors. And so we filed the QTAM lawsuit, basically acting as our own attorney general, and I'm the lead plaintiff on that lawsuit, and it's being held. It's going to be heard soon. Jeff Olson, they tried to get the Judge Olson off the case here, but he's still our judge on this case too as well. And we've learned a lot through the process that, for example, OTA charges up to 3.5 times more to build a road than ODOT does. And so it becomes very lucrative, like defense contracting.
Yeah.
Before I retired from the military and after I retired, I became a defense contractor because they paid me 2-3 times more than what I was paid during active duty. So when you have an organization like OTA that is exempt from competitive bidding, everybody wants to be a consultant for the OTA because you can charge what you want. And that's a big problem when you can't see what they're doing. So the Attorney General looked at all the data that was presented to him by our grassroots, by myself and Stan Ward and Richard Labarth and Alexei Tortov, and he decided that maybe an audit is what the people want. So he is like me. We're both Air Force, and we're about transparency and accountability for the people here.
Right.
That's all we wanted from day one.
There you go. I'm just going to throw this in there because Jones, they built that turnpike right through. And I really wish that there had been more of a presence of the grassroots activists. But I think it was new. And I think it was something that wasn't that infrastructure of being able to say, wait a minute, wait, you're taking my property, wait, that's not right. You can't just walk in and maybe didn't have that legal, apparatus in place. So I'm glad that this is happening because that's what we all want, right? Transparency, and we want accountability, and we want that exposure. Let's get it out in the open. Don't hide anything under the rug anymore.
I think what made what we are doing in Norman prominent is because, like I said, early on when I got into politics, I was a guy just minding my own business before 2020 funding, and when you have a grassroots organization that pops out of nowhere for the sole purpose, bipartisan, both Democrats and Republicans working on the same thing, that the defunding of the police should never have happened the way it did. That gave the city of Norman and gave all the constituents and the current grassroots organization kind of a path, a map on how to grow another grassroots organization. So the current grassroots organization that's fighting the turnpike with us, phenomenal folks. They've got so much talent. So many researchers, and their goal is to help expose and shed light. That was always the mission with this movement. It's not to fight a government agency here, but to fight on behalf of the residents, to let them know, look, if anything, and we are both constituents of our own, where we live and who we talk to and who represents us.
That's right.
But the city of Norman is no different than the state of Oklahoma. And so all we want as constituents is to know that our elected officials have our back. And I have been there. I have had the backs of Ward 5 in the city of Norman from day one. Since the 22 February Access Oklahoma announcement, Stan Ward called me on the 23rd and said, what are we going to do? I said, I already had plans for a town hall on March 3rd. And on March 7th, he and I sat for maybe 3 hours in his office, and we kind of whiteboarded short-term, long-term goals and how we need to attack this. And I hear that cat again.
I know. I heard him too.
I'm going to hold this part for the next segment about what he and I were talking about and how we kind of shaped this movement going forward.
Okay, great. Don't go away. We're coming.
That cat.
Welcome back to the Conservative Continuum with Mick Meow. Hey, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, all those people who are out there who are giving money to patreon.com/Mick Meow with OTU Media. Thank you, because this is the content that you get, right? There you go. All right, I see you out there shaking your heads. I know they're doing it. They're right along with us.
You got a lot of support.
So when we left off, you left us on a cliffhanger. So how you were talking about that shaping of the movement, you had the meeting with Stan Ward, and go.
And, we didn't keep that information to ourselves. We shared it with everybody here because the more information is out there, the more people we can get on board, the bigger, robust organization we can build in the coalition now that it extends not just in Norman, but up to the Capitol and up to Tulsa. And so that's how we grow organizations. That's how we affect change. There's a lot of people that have worked together. I can't name them all, but they're key players. Stan Ward, Richard LaBarth, Alexi, Teresa Elam, Amy Serrato, Tassia Hirschfeld, Greg Fitter, Randy Carter, Dave Moore. There's so many people. These are the key people too, but there are so many other key people that I just can't name them all. But these folks here kept the organization going and planned the outings and the Capitol Day. As a matter of fact, next Monday we have Capitol Day at the state capitol, and I'll post that on my website, or you can go to the No More Toll Roads page and find that and participate. And Attorney General Drummond will be there to speak to as well.
Okay.
So it's going to be something that people can go and participate in the crowd and support those folks that are fighting this for us on our behalf. It is very important that you guys participate. Just like in local government, you voted for me, and I'd like to see your faces in city council out in the audience from the dais, because that shows that you do care about the work that I do and the work that we do for you. And it's nice to have those faces in the audience saying, yes, we're here to support you. So next Monday, I think that's the 27th, Capitol Day. Go to my Facebook page. I'll post that. We look forward to seeing everybody there to support us and to support the grassroots individuals who are making this a possibility, making it happen.
Okay. And your Facebook is just under your name, or do they need to go to the one with Ward 5?
I have the Ward 5 one. Basically, it's now it's changed to re-elect Rarchar Tortorello for Ward 5.
Okay.
So you can go to my personal page too as well, but that page is my official page that I post everything that has to do with Ward 5 in the city of Norman.
Okay, perfect. So let me ask you this, because I think when you hear things, it's only fair to ask people so that they can respond to it. So what do you say to those people who may have said or who believe that you have supported affordable housing?
You know what? So that's ARPA money, the American Rescue Act plan money that was given to the states. And this one here is specifically earmarked for housing, which came from the governor's office here. And, with the city our size to grow, we depend heavily on sales tax revenue. And that means rooftops. The more rooftops we have, then the more sales tax grows. The base grows. So I had no problem looking at that as a solution to infrastructure. I consider all that infrastructure. I compared it to base housing for junior enlisted. So, we had a study session on firemen, police officers, junior police officer and junior firemen that couldn't afford to live in the city of Norman, whom they serve. And so when this opportunity came up for a housing project that is federal funded, we pay nothing. The developers will come together and build this at their own cost and turn it over to the Norman Housing Authority. We have 7 months of due diligence. And one of the issues that I want tacked onto this is that we should look at giving some of these houses or allocating to firemen and police officers and city employees, maybe school teachers. That's only fair, all right?
Yeah.
It's not strictly Section 8. You actually have to be employed and making an income to live in one of these units here. So that's my want, is that in order for me to go and support this, is that we give the opportunity, like we do for base housing, to those that need to be here when they're called. I think it's ridiculous that you're a fireman or you're a police officer and you live in Noble and Newcastle or other localities, and you can't afford to live here in the city of Norman. So I consider that affordable housing. It's part of infrastructure. It brings more people to Norman. And if we don't use it, the reality, it goes back to the governor who'll give it to more. Noble and Newcastle, they don't care. They want to use the money for the sole purpose of building homes to have people live there. They can contribute to the economy.
Gotcha. Well, I can already feel that cat staring at us. So peering at us over the top of the...
Don't jinx me. Don't
Yeah.
jinx us. I think we got a couple more minutes left.
So I want to give you the last word. I want you to tell us where your website is. If you got a website, do you have volunteer days coming up? What you got going on until April the 4th, where we can find you if people want to donate, whatever.
Go to rarcharfornorman.com, and it's number 4. And you'll find all the information there. My phone number is 405-761-4401. And what?
Nothing. I just love a man who will give his phone number out.
You know what? Look, that's been my number for years. I hardly ever, that's maybe 15, 17 years. It's always a number to contact me. I do have a government phone from the city of Norman, but, it's like I have to remember to carry that with me at all times. But, we have the runoff election on April 4th. And those that voted for me the first time, you have placed your trust in me the first time. Everything I ran on, I have accomplished and exceeded every expectation that I thought I would. And I have a lot more left to do in my second term. So I humbly ask that you guys get out on the 4th. We have early voting on March 30 and 31. You can go and vote too. We have a lot of construction in Ward 5. And I want to make it as easy for everyone to get out to vote and exercise your constitutional ability to voice who you want to represent you. And when it comes to representation, I believe that, this is nonpartisan. However, for the conservatives out there who are watching this, because this is a conservative show, I have been a lifelong conservative. I've never changed my affiliation to pursue an election. I've always been a registered Republican from the day I graduated high school and college and joined the Air Force until now. And so I fought against the police defunding of 2020. I fought in fighting for private property rights with the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. And I am that consistent voice for the ward that has been forgotten. Ward 5 is the forgotten ward. And I want to continue being your voice. I have done a great job, and I look forward to seeing you guys for next term. Again, Rarchar for Norman, the number 4. And you can always contact me directly at 405-761-4401.
Wonderful. All right. So everybody's got it down. You've got it on your calendar. There is no excuses. If you're in Norman, you got to get out and vote. You got to do it, right?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Rarchar, it was
Nick,
so good to see you
always
again.
nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. I'm glad you came on. We got to chit chat. Sorry about the cat.
That's okay. I got 2 myself, so.
Yeah. Well,
there you go. There she goes.
There it is. All right. You guys have a great day. Don't forget, to all our sponsors, thank you. Thank you, Rarchar.
Thank you, Nick.
We'll see you later.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all for curling up with us today. I am so grateful to all of you, and I am so blessed that you are watching my program. So, I want to make sure that you all get out the vote. April 4th. Early voting is March 30th and 31st. I want you to run down to wherever you do your voting at in Norman, because there's a city council race, and Rarchar Tortorello is on the ballot there. He is running against Michael Nash, but I want you to go down there and I want you to vote, okay? So, make sure that you also subscribe to the Conservative Continuum on the patreon.com/McMeow. You can follow me on Rumble and Facebook. The Conservative Continuum with McMeow is also on True Social, Telegram, Getter, and Substack. Now, I want you to join us this next week because we've got Alex Gray who's going to come on and he's going to talk to us about China. We have got a lot of territory to cover. And don't forget, stand up, speak out, get involved, and be blessed always, my friends. Welcome to the Conservative Continuum. I am your host, Mick Meow. Let's talk about what's going on in Oklahoma. April 3rd, the OK GOP Action Team will be hosting the Oklahoma State Republican Party Chairman Forum. That is going to be held at the Higher Plain Baptist Church at 6 p.m. and both candidates, AJ Ferrati and Sean Roberts, have agreed to attend. Then, on April the 17th, the OK GOP Action Team will be hosting the Oklahoma State Republican Party Vice Chairman Forum. That is going to be at the Sheridan Church in Tulsa, once again at 6 p.m. And the candidates who will attend will be myself, Wayne Hill, Dr. Paula Price, and Michael Stopp. So, come on out and attend those, please. Now, don't forget that April 4th is where there's going to be school board elections, and that's going to be real important because our guest that we have today is Dr. Jerry Childs, and he is running for Ward 3 of the Edmonds School Board race. So make sure that you get out wherever you vote at, and you get that vote out, get there. Also, March 30th and the 31st, you can do early voting. Now, please subscribe to me on patreon.com/McMeow. You can find the Conservative Continuum on Rumble and Facebook. Today, we're going to once again talk to our candidate, Dr. Jerry Childs, about the Edmonds School Board race. And I want to make sure that you all are aware, too, that the Conservative Continuum with Mick Meow is on Telegram, Getter, Substack, and also True Social. That's a lot. That's a lot of places to go to, but you can find us anywhere. So grab your kitty treats and your milk, and let's get ready to engage. Welcome to the Conservative Continuum. You've asked for it, you've got it. A special interview. We are here with a special guest, Dr. Jerry Childs, and he is running for Ward 3 Edmonds School Board. So this is going to be a phenomenal race, y'all. April 4th. When's that date? April 4th. So there is early voting that's going to go on March 30th and 31st. You guys want to be sure, get out there, get your votes, get your boots on the ground, get the word out there. Sir, it is so glad to see you. Thank you. Yeah. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I haven't been able to talk much to people who are running for school board because the school boards sort of go on and off time. But I want you to kind of tell for our viewers, sir, if you'll just tell us a little bit about yourself, if you
Okay.
don't mind, and why you are running for the Edmonds School Board, Ward 3.
Okay. Well, I practiced emergency medicine for 30 years. And following that, I took over I sort of burn out of emergency medicine, as physicians often do. And I took over the medical directorship at the Oklahoma County Jail. And I sort of joke about that. And I say, whatever you've heard about the county jail is probably not true. It's actually worse than that.
Oh, my.
So I did that for 5 years. And then for the same company, I became regional medical director for jails and prisons around the country, and helped to supervise dozens of physicians. And doctors don't like to be told what to do, so it was a challenging thing. Hundreds of nurses and thousands of patients, and I'm still doing that some part-time, but trying to be semi-retired. And so that's sort of where I am. I've been married for 43 years, have 4 kids that are grown and out of school, and now I have grandchildren that are starting to school, and so education has returned to being important to me.
Yes. That's wonderful. First of all, thank you for being an emergency medicine physician. I was a nurse for 28 years. I did oncology, but I did do a adrenaline junkie stint where I did 6 years of a cardiothoracic recovery.
There you go.
So thank you for that. We'll have to have you back on the show so we can talk about health and medicine.
Okay,
That
sure.
would be wonderful. But today we're talking about school boards. So you've got 4 children. How many grandchildren?
7/9 grandchildren. 2 are step grandchildren. My son married a lady that had 2 children, so 7 biological and 2 more adopted.
Wow, that's a quiver full.
Yeah,
I
it
like
is.
it.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your experience and your qualifications. What would you bring to this position, sir?
Well, I haven't had a lot of experience in the education movement. I'm 67 years old, and for a long time I thought, I'll hang on for another 20 or 30 years and I'll be gone, and whatever happens, happens. But then my grandkids started growing, started going to school, and I began to look into what was being offered to their schools, and started looking at proficiency scores in the Edmond Public Schools, which have continually gone down, even pre-COVID. I hear teachers tell me about discipline issues that are just wearing them out, and there was a recent suicide at one of the Edmond schools. There's bullying issues. There's teacher shortage, and teacher pay is always an issue. Curriculum is an issue, and as I was looking into things, since 2000, there's been a 7% increase in students and an 8% increase in teachers, but an 87% increase in administrators. And I'm thinking, what is up with that? And just wonder what they do. And because of those things, I thought, well, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, and I've begun to learn about things and talk with teachers, talk with constituents, and the incumbent has been in office for 20 years, and a lot of people think that's too long.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe a different set of eyes. I'm not saying anything bad about her.
Sure.
Different set of eyes, different set of ideas. Maybe can turn around the proficiency scores in Edmond. May be able to reverse some of the discipline issues in Edmond, and go from there.
So you mentioned a couple things that perked my ears. First of all, I am so sorry to hear that there was a suicide in the school itself. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that story, but and the other thing is the discipline. Do you mind just expanding a little bit on those 2 issues?
Yes, I don't know the exact details of the suicide, but from what I understand, he was a student at one of the high schools and was being bullied. And there is a state mandated committee that's supposed to meet regularly for bullying issues and look into those issues. And if I'm elected, I will certainly try to volunteer to be on that committee to try to make sure that all students, no matter what their lifestyle is, no matter what their race is, no matter how they identify, they need to be protected. Children need to be safe in their schools, and that's one area. And in discipline, we've talked to some teachers, and when a child starts acting up in a classroom, from what I'm told, all the other students are made to leave the room and let that child have his little fit, and the other students are forced to go to another room until this child runs out of energy or whatever, and apparently not a lot of consequences. And I understand there's some government regulations on how that's handled, but there's got to be a way to handle that in a fashion where the 99% of the students that want to learn don't get discriminated against.
Yeah, that seems like the opposite. Remember the days when if you had the person who was acting out, that person would be taken out of the
Exactly.
class. I have also heard that there were issues with maybe children who identified as an animal, and that there was quite a bit of concern about how do you work around that seems like a little bit of maybe a
Well,
discipline issue.
it seems to me, like I said, every student has a right to an education, and every student has a right to a safe education.
Yes.
But if someone's activity is infringing on everyone else, then there's got to be a better answer. There has to be a solution to that. And I don't know specifically about how some students are identifying, whether as an animal or
Sure.
transgender or whatever.
Sure.
And they have a right to do that as long as it's not infringing on the rest of the students or the rest of the population. Everyone has to be treated equally.
I agree with that. Yeah, you've got to protect them, and you've got to have workable solutions within the school right there in that classroom.
Yes,
otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, we have the cat. He always tells me when there's a break because he needs those kitty treats. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss more with Dr. Jerry Childs. We're going to discuss more about the school board election race. Welcome back to the Conservative Continuum. Today we are here with Dr. Jerry Childs, and he is running for Ward 3 for the school board, Edmond School Board. So that vote is going to happen on April the 4th. So March 30th, March 31st, there are going to be early voting. Make sure you get out there, mark it on your calendar, write it down right now. And then I want to say thank you to our sponsors, all of you who contribute to us at patreon.com/McMeow. We so appreciate you. Sir, when we were last talking, we were just kind of talking about what is happening in the schools. So if you win this election, what are your ideas? What are your visions for what would happen either within the schools or within the Edmond School Board?
Okay. Yeah, there's the main thing is encouraging students to get a good education. These proficiency scores that I mentioned earlier just continue to go down, and encourage students to apply themselves for a good education, whether they're preparing to go to college or whether they're preparing to go to career tech school. My son, my oldest child, just was not a college person. He just didn't handle it. Went to career tech school, and now he's a mechanic for Lexus, is doing well there.
Right.
And other vocations or whatever you choose. But in order to do those successfully, I think you need to be able to read and write and add and subtract, multiply and divide, and those things are very important. Emphasize in schools the Francis Tuttle that's in Edmond, that there's 35 tracks that are free to high school students for career choices. Collaborate with UCO, University of Central Oklahoma, and allow them to maybe take some extra courses while they're in school. I'm being a physician, and in the science area, there are some organizations that emphasize STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yes.
And bring some of those people into the schools to encourage them to try to reach those goals, to enter those types of vocations, and listen to teachers. I am told that a lot of teachers are not happy with some of the curriculum that they have to teach. They're mandated to teach a certain curriculum, perhaps by an administrator who's never taught, and the teachers went to college to learn how to teach. And I think teachers need to be allowed to teach the best way they know how. And so listen to the teachers, ask them how about the curriculum that they're using. Is it successful? Is it not? How can it be fixed? If it can't be fixed, let's use a different curriculum. So there's a lot of different ways that can be done. Administrative support. We have all these administrators. What are they doing? Are they assisting in teaching? Are they helping the teachers out? Are they substituting when a teacher misses a day? Some of the, from what I'm told by Ryan Walters, a lot of the administrators are former teachers. They move to the administrative side because they get better pay, which is another completely different topic. But some of them are teachers, and why can't they, with this teacher shortage that we have, why can't they teach some classes? Assign a class to them, one class a semester for an administrator that was a previous teacher to help with the shortage of teachers.
Yeah. I think those are all great. I like that, I especially love having, the people from STEM come in, engage those children. You never know. Somebody may not realize, I didn't realize that I enjoyed science as much as I did, until I failed out of the first time in college. Shh, don't tell anybody that. And then I went back and got my nursing degree and was over a 4.0. And I was like, oh, well, that was a big difference from a 1 to a 4. Right. So let's talk a little bit about what are those things that need to be improved. You've touched on some of those things that need to be improved, but specifically, what improvements do you see need to be made within the school curriculum, let's say, or within the school board? Because I know that we've got a lot of parents coming into the school board meetings. They're concerned about what their children are learning. They're concerned about assignments that their children are being given. They're concerned about the books that their children are being given to read. Right. So what difference do you think needs to be made? What improvements?
Well, according to Public School Review, there's an independent agency, the high schools in Edmond, only about half of the students are considered proficient in math and reading in high school. In one high school, it's as low as 36% are proficient in math and reading.
Whoa.
And obviously something's not right.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact answer, but whatever they're doing doesn't seem to be working. If I'm elected, I would work any way I could to try to see what we can do to change the curriculum, since the current curriculum doesn't seem to be working. Um, I noticed it's a puzzling thing to me. I've been to the last several school board meetings, and I looked at the minutes for the last 2 years of school board meetings, and every vote was 5-0. Every single vote was 5-0. And I don't know if that's bad, but it's puzzling that there's never any dissension or any discussion or any disagreement about things that are being brought up. And being a child of the 60s, I'm sort of a rebel. And I think I would not be afraid to vote no if it didn't seem like it was a good idea. So on this, but I want to work with the school board members, but seeing that a 5-0 vote every single time for 2 years just seems a little puzzling to me.
Yeah, that does. Can I ask you this? And full transparency, I don't have children. So obviously I don't have any children in school. Are the school board meetings, are they videotaped like city councils?
Yes, ma'am.
They are.
Yeah.
So people can watch them and they can see. And I wonder how many of those 5-0 votes, if there's any debate back and forth before they get to that 5-0.
There's in the board meetings. I've been attending the board meetings since December. They're once a month, and I have to give them credit. There is some discussion and some questions, but then they all vote the same, and it just puzzles me that I don't know if they decide beforehand we're only going to bring things to the table that is unanimous. They don't want any 4-1 or 3-2 votes. I'm not sure how that happens, if that's something they decide before the board meeting or not.
Wow, that seems just a little bit odd. I do want to delve a little bit into the scores. You've talked about those proficiency scores in Edmond. I hear the cat. He's making his argument to get more kitty treats. So we're going to do that really quick. And when we come back, I want to delve a little bit into those proficiency scores.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Don't go away.
I have been serving as a president of a women's club, which is really just a men and women's group where we come together, just common sense organization to get educated and equip one another. And so I really feel like this grassroots from the ground up is so important. However, what can you do to make it cool to be a Republican again? Like, how can you come across and share that with the nation so that it is cool? Because honestly, when my husband was running, family sells, children, kids, education, prosperity, rising up, hardworking parents, teaching their kids to work hard. Those things sell. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, most people want those things. Health, we want good health care, all those things. So how can you inspire from the top down and lead? Because we live in whether we like it or not, we live in an influencing world. Mm-hmm. Social media is everything. And so I want to know what you're going to do to make it cool, not necessarily to be a Republican, but to talk about these things, because we probably all agree about several of these things. Only because we put an R by our name and we say we're a Republican, then we're kind of cast to the side. But these are values that most people actually care about.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I have one simple solution to this. Democrats have invested a lot of money in social media influencers, believe it or not. I didn't even know this was a thing, but there are these companies out there and they hire these young people and they can promote just about anything. I mean, I actually have a lawsuit going about YouTube influencers right now. I was shocked to learn that all these 20 something and even teenage kids are making millions of dollars promoting products. Well, guess what? They can promote ideas as well. And there's a couple of conservative companies that actually have a stable of conservative influencers. I'm 54 years old. I'm not going to claim that I'm like the hippest person in the world here, but you have to know what you don't know, right? And so you can hire very cheaply compared to the amount of money we blow. I think we had a consulting contract at the RNC in 2022 where we paid a famous person who was you see on television on Fox News $800,000 for consulting services, communications consulting services. What do you guys think of the RNC's communications? I don't think we got our $800,000 worth. Let's put it that way. Now, let's say if we took that we got ripped off, and that's a whole other story. But anyway, let's say you took that $800,000 and you spent it on 100 influencers and said, "Hey, kids, go out to these communities where you live and make videos. Make videos about what you're doing. Make videos. We're trying to promote early voting in your state. Make a video of you sitting around the table in your sweats or whatever with your friends and filling out your ballots and then turning them in, taking them to the city hall or wherever the voting place is." That would move so many more people than some boring lecture by somebody like me. So I think that that's something that we should do. That's smart. It's also cheap. I'm not saying get into TikTok, although some people would suggest doing that as well. But, I mean, young people do watch that stuff. But if you even just did Instagram or Facebook Live like this, if we use modern technology, imagine as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, when was the last time in my state party, the state party chair actually sat and answered questions from members of the state party? That would be never, but it's actually free to do that. You could do it from your living room. You could do it once a month. You could take it 15 questions. You could have pre-screened questions, answer a couple of tough questions, answer 13 softball questions, whatever it is. It's so much more accessible today to meet and do things this way than it was 5 or 10 years ago. I don't think we're making best use of that modern technology, and we should be doing more of that. And so I'd love to see us doing that.
Welcome back to the Conservative Continuum. I am your host, Mick Meow. We are here with Dr. Jerry Childs, and he is running for Ward 3 Edmond School Board. When is that? April 4th. Remember, put that down, right? They got to get out.
April
they got to
4th.
April
Yes,
4th. They got to vote.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were talking before the break about the Edmond proficiency scores.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is mind-blowing that there's one school where only 36% of the children are able to graduate with math and writing skills. So what do we need to do? What would be your suggestions in ways that we could get that improved, or how do we need to kind of rethink that problem?
The exact numbers in one of the schools, 36% of the students are considered proficient in math.
Oh, proficient.
Yeah, 36%. So that means 2/3 are not.
Right.
I
gotcha.
And so
that's even worse.
Yeah. So to me, talk to the teachers that teach that course and find out why it's so low. What is the problem? Is it a curriculum problem? Is it an attention problem? What is the problem? Why is that so low?
Yeah.
And it was suggested to me, why don't we reach out to other school boards or other schools or maybe even other states that have higher scores? What are you guys doing to make your student to have your students have higher scores in math and reading? And the other part that's puzzling to me is, even though these proficiency scores are about half, and they've continued to go down for the last 10 years, even pre-COVID, the graduation rate has stayed the same. So we're just pushing the students out with inability to read and write, add and subtract.
Yes.
And so I think teachers, they're the one with the boots on the ground. They're the ones that are teaching. They're the ones that know what their students need. Talk with them about why it's not working, and then talk with other schools that where it is working. Find out what they're doing, what curriculum are they using, what how are they teaching their kids to be more proficient in those subjects. So those would be a couple of the things that I think would at least maybe give us an answer as to why it's so bad.
Yeah. I do have a quick question. I wonder if any of this correlates to why we have such a loss of teachers. I don't, I'm not trying to make connections here because I think teachers are wonderful. We love you. We just adore wonderful teachers. But do you think that's part of the issue, that maybe they're not able to reach the children, or they're not able to teach the curriculum, and that is causing them to say throw my hands up.
This school year, this current school year, 50 certified teachers have resigned mid school year. When they took the job, they knew what the pay was. So I don't think they quit because they weren't being paid well enough. Which, they don't go into. No one goes into teaching to get rich. I don't think.
Not right.
And it makes me wonder why did they resign midterm? And it is so bad that one elementary school in District 3, a couple of grades for the second 9 weeks of the year, didn't even send out report cards because they had no teachers to evaluate the students to learn what what their grades would be. And so I don't know all of the answers. I hear things about discipline is a huge problem. I hear issues about administrators either not helping at all or micromanaging the teachers to the point that they get frustrated because they're told they have to do this, they have to do this, they have to do that, and it takes away from their time in teaching. So those are some of the things I think that cause them to want to leave, but I can't tell you any other specific reasons.
Gotcha. Do you see a way to increase retention in the teachers?
Well, there's a lot of legislation pending.
Ooh.
Trying to get that pulled up for you here.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. There's a Senate Bill 522 there has been proposed that will give a stipend of $500 for teacher mentors. And my youngest daughter, taught first grade at Edmond Public Schools, and she quit after 1 year because she was just overwhelmed and apparently was not given support. And she might still be teaching if she had a mentor.
Yeah.
There's another bill, House Bill 2775, $2,500 across the board raise for all teachers, and then $300 million more that is considered discretionary. And I'm thinking, I don't have anything against all teachers getting a raise, but why not have some merit pay involved with that?
Yeah.
And that $300 million, the way I read it, could be used for merit pay. The teachers that are producing students that are passing and proficient, pay them for teaching well. It may be a little complicated, but I am sure the school superintendent, Dr. Grunwald, knows which teachers are good. She can tell that, and those people need to be paid for the work that they do. There's many other things in the works. Another one, Senate Bill 364, provides for 12-week maternity leave for teachers.
Oh yeah.
How many teachers leave because they had a kid and they just never come back. So there are a lot of things in the pipeline that may help hire teachers and retain teachers. One other one, it wouldn't affect Edmond as much. Senate Bill 531. Oh no, I'm sorry. Senate Bill. Where is it? House Bill 1935 would give scholarships to students in college if they would choose to teach at a low income school.
Oh, yeah.
That happens. There's a lot of that happens in the medical profession. The state will pay for your tuition if you go to an underserved city or an underserved area, and this would be the same principle. If you agree to go to a low income area or an underserved area, you would have a scholarship provided to help with your tuition. So there's a lot of things that the legislature is trying to do, and it seems like to me the legislature gets a lot of bad press thinking they don't like schools, they don't like public schools, they don't like teachers, and I think that's the furthest thing from the truth. There's multiple bills trying to aid public education, trying to reward teachers, and better yet, trying to award good teachers. Ryan Walters is all behind merit pay for teachers, and like I said, across the board pay, I'm fine with that, but there should be a way to pay the best teachers, give them a little merit increase.
Yeah, absolutely. To make the comparison in nursing, that's what we did. You had a score, and if you were able to, provide your medication on time and scan your meds, let's say, taking an example, you got, so many points. If you didn't do that, you got less points, and then your raise was based on how many points you had. Those are all really excellent. Do you know if any of these are passing, or?
I think that they've all been proposed. They're still in the works. I don't think any of them have passed yet.
Okay. I'll have to get caught up on those. Okay, once again, that kitty and his treats. Somebody open the door and let him out. All right, we'll be back in just a minute. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Conservative Continuum. I am your host, Mick Meow. We are here with Dr. Jerry Childs, running for Ward 3, Edmond School Board. So I want to say again to our sponsors, thank you so much. Please go to patreon.com/Mick Meow and become a sponsor today. Sir, I do want to touch on a subject that we briefly touched on, but it's the books, the books that are that are being taught to the children, or they're in the school libraries. People like you and me that see books genderqueer, we know that was taken out of the libraries. Then they go, oh, they call us a name, and they say, oh, you're for banning these books, that books. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, there's a website, Edmond Did You Know, and the person that has put up that website has obtained all of the books that are assigned to students from, I believe, 8th grade through the 11th grade. She's not done the senior year books yet, and a synopsis and topics that the books cover, and words that are in the books. And some of these books, if you read them out loud at the job site, you would be sent home. You would be fired. There are very explicit sexual episodes that are in some of these books. Now, Many people think that I'm for banning books and burning books. I am absolutely not for that. All I want is age appropriate books. If a parent thinks that a book is good for the child to be reading, then read it. Let that child read it. There's a thing called opt in or opt out. The book assignments, I think, in the in transparency, the books need to be made known to the parents so they can look through the book and say, yes, I think I want my child to read this book, or no, I don't think my child is old enough yet to read this type of book. I mean, there are ninth grade and 10th grade books that are just really, and so if a parent is comfortable with that book assignment, great, have them read it. If a parent's not comfortable, parents know what's best for their child. They know if their child is mature enough to read a certain level of a book with certain level topics and words in it, uh, and they should be allowed to decide what their children are assigned when it comes to the books that they're definitely on the edge,
Yeah.
as far as topics and words and things that are included in there. So it's just a matter of parent knowledge and parent approval is
Yeah.
all I'm talking about.
Absolutely. I agree with you. If you're 18, if you're, 18, 19 and you're reading something then, that has a lot of graphic content, but not a second grader, not a
Right,
third grader,
right.
not a fifth grader, not it's too much.
Right.
We're, I hate to use the word hypersexualizing, but it is,
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Childs, I want to give you the last word. Can you tell us, are you doing, I know you had, there was a forum
Yes,
the
ma'am.
other night, if you want to tell us a little bit about that. Volunteer days, door knocking, websites, where people can donate. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, I was the candidate forum was last night, and it was a stressful thing. All of this has been a stretching experience for me. I've never really asked people for money. I've never really gone door to door, and I've never done a candidate forum. But I've succeeded in finishing all of those. We're doing well in the door to door campaign. The last 3 weekends, we've been going door to door. I think we've knocked on at least 700 doors during this campaign,
really
and we'll continue to do that the next 2 weekends. We may take this Saturday off, but again, we'll start up on Sunday. I have a website, Dr. Jerry for EPS.com, and the four is FOR for so Dr. Jerry for EPS.com, and there's an area if you trust me and you support the campaign, there's an area to donate campaign money. It's expensive to run a campaign. If you'd like to have a yard sign, I have a Facebook site, Dr. Jerry for Edmond School Board, and you can leave a message there. I was just reviewing them today, and a lady said she wanted a sign in her yard, and I plan to drop a sign by there today. Go to Facebook. The candidate forum that happened last night is on the nondoc.com website Facebook page.
Oh.
That's nondoc.com, and you can see the entire forum if you'd like to learn more about myself and the opponent and things that are important in this upcoming election. And so the election is April 4th, less than 2 weeks from now. And like I said, what's important to me is the future of my grandchildren, the future of other people's grandchildren, the future of people's grandchildren, the future of Edmond, the future of this country. And it all starts in school.
Yeah.
What we learn in school is what we apply a lot of times for the rest of our life. And so those things are important to me. And go to my website and look at what I'm about, and listen to the forum, and you'll get more details about what I'm about. And I look for your support. And Mick, I thank you for letting me be on, and appreciate the time.
You bet. Let me ask you this. If somebody wanted to help you door knocking, what website would they go to? How would they sign up to be a door knocker or a volunteer?
There is an area on the website, on the drjerryforeps.com. There's an area to volunteer. Put your name and everything, and it will go through. I'll get you on the email list that I have, that I send out on what our plans are for the upcoming weekend.
Wonderful. Dr. Childs, thank you so
Thank you for
much.
having me.
We really hope that that on April 4th that you just knock it right out of the park there, sir. We're rooting for you.
Yeah, we'll see.
We need good people on our school boards.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
You
having
bet.
me.
You bet. It's a
Okay.
pleasure. Thank you all for curling up with us today. I am so grateful that you watched my program, and I am truly blessed by all of you. It is absolutely true. I am so grateful to my guest, Dr. Jerry Childs. He is running for Ward 3 Edmond School Board, so make sure April 4th you get out and you do what you need to do. Vote. Now, please subscribe to the Conservative Continuum on patreon.com/McMeow. You can also follow us on Rumble and Facebook. The Conservative Continuum with McMeow is on True Social, Telegram, Getter, and Substack. You can find us anywhere. We're just all over. Now, join us next week, because we are going to be interviewing Alex Gray. And we're going to be talking about China. There's a lot going on here, people. So we need to have our eyes open and our ears to the grindstone. Is there an ear to the grindstone? Maybe it's the ear to the ground. Anyhow, put your ears and your eyes out there, okay? Now, don't forget, stand up, speak out, get involved, and be blessed always, my friends.